Showtime.
Showtime. Showtime.
Ooh, showtime.
Showtime. Showtime.
Showtime.
Showtime. Showtime. Showtime.
Ed Berliner, the fastest show in sports.
Greetings, true believers. Welcome back into the fastest show in sports. I am your host. I am the ringleader, Ed Berliner. The gentleman with me, of course, is the over 50 white male who has more Taylor Swift memorabilia than any individual in the history of the planet. He's happy with it. He has it. He has all the albums. He's a Swiftie, ladies and gentlemen. Mike Wise on the show, of course. Hey, Swiftie. There you go. You've finally been on it. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to do it, but it had to be done eventually. Okay?
None of that's true, but I do like her. I do. I do like Tate. I kind of dream of being in a press. I talked to somebody yesterday that's going to talk to The Athletic about me doing something for him. I don't know if it's going to come to fruition. But if I started getting in the locker rooms again, the one thing I was good at, if I got somebody aside, I could really talk to them about serious stuff going on with them. Get to know them. But the other thing, I would break the ice with the most ridiculous questions because I just thought sports was too serious. And at one point, there was I don't know, I could tell you about 20 times when I've said things that were ridiculous, including one time I said, so as David Stern was at a press conference, I said, so you're saying you're Satan? And the whole room busted up. But there was... if I was in front of Kelsey's locker after a practice and it was his media availability day, I'd just be like, could we, I know this is a lot to ask, but could we get like one girlfriend question a week? Just one girlfriend question a week. And he's probably a funny guy. And he'd go, yeah, sure. And I go, do you actually call her Tay Tay? Is that like a nickname for you guys?
I agree.
And then he would go, yeah. And I go, that is so sad.
America,
and he'd laugh.
If
If he'd either punch me or laugh, but it would be fun to ask him.
If you did that and you got it on tape, you got it on video, instant viral, gone. Put it up on all the
it wouldn't even be to become famous. It would be to make Travis Kelce laugh that afternoon.
Just have some fun.
Instead of taking some stupid question about a Mike linebacker that's guarding him now.
The same old
bullshit.
Shut up. I guarantee you there are people in this show, watching the show, listening to the show, who do not know who Colin Kaepernick is. Now, it's only been 9 years, and back in 2016, this is a guy who created a furor, a firestorm in the National Football League and in sports because he did something he felt was socially correct. Now, that's going to move forward here to 2025, where recently Spike Lee was creating a 4-part docuseries about Colin Kaepernick. It was going to be shown on ESPN. Not anymore. We're going to tell you why in a minute, but first of all, for those of you who are not aware, learn just a little bit about Colin Kaepernick, what happened, and why, to this day, it is still an issue that people want to argue about.
Overnight, San Francisco 49ers quarterback Colin Kaepernick refusing to stand during the national anthem again. This time, he took a knee right behind hundreds of service members being honored on Military Appreciation Night. As the crowd and players stand, you can see Kaepernick kneeling on the sideline. Teammate Eric Reed joining him.
Going to stand.
And he's receiving heavy boos here.
The crowd booing every time he took a snap.
He's entitled to his opinion. We fought for that. I just think he's a jerk.
And now the quarterback sparking new controversy for wearing these socks showing police officers as pigs. Those scandalous socks drawing criticism from law enforcement officials across the country. Police in Vermont tweeting, wealthy, privileged person's free speech dehumanizes an entire group of human beings. Sound familiar, Kaepernick?
The socks that were worn, did those not seem negative?
No, that was once again, we have cops that are murdering people. We have cops in the SFPD that are blatantly racist. And those issues need to be addressed.
Players from other teams like Jeremy Lane from Seattle are joining Kaepernick in his seated stand, begging the question, how far will this go?
At this point, I think it will continue to be taking a knee. As far as how long this goes, I'm not sure.
Kaepernick was destroyed by people in every form of media, on social media, in television news, newspaper, makes no difference, but he was destroyed because he had taken a knee during the national anthem and had dissed, if you will, had disrespected the United States of America. He stood against cops. He stood against the military. He stood against everything that America is good for. Part of the reason that that happened is because certain people decided to make this part of their political stance. Now, what he did was political, no doubt about it, but it's in what happened after Kaepernick did this and in the years that followed that tell us a little bit about not only what he did, but how he became such a pariah.
I can't look in the mirror and see other people dying on the street that should have the same opportunities that I've had and say, you know what, I can live with myself, because I can't if I just watch.
All of a sudden, it became a point of controversy.
I don't think it helps the cause any.
You have to stand up there with your team and understand that it's this game and what's going on around the country is bigger than just you.
You're concerned that it can be seen as a blanket indictment against law enforcement in general?
As far as what? I don't really understand what you're trying to get at.
People getting murdered by police. I mean, do you think that it seems as sort of an indictment against police?
There is police brutality.
Yeah.
People of color have been targeted by police.
His message was hijacked, and it became about everything except what he was protesting.
And he's receiving heavy boos here.
Colin made it very clear from the beginning that his protest was not about the military, it was not about the flag, it was not about the anthem, it was not about anything except racial inequality and police brutality against people of color.
I think a lot of guys didn't understand. Then there were other guys that were totally on board.
One person who decidedly was not on board was Republican presidential nominee Donald Trump. He said this on a radio show.
I think it's a terrible thing. Maybe you should find a country that works better for him. Let him try. It won't happen.
And by this time, it seemed like everything was seemingly adding fuel to the fire of these protests. Like, for example, President Obama was asked about Kaepernick's kneeling during the G20 summit.
He's exercising his constitutional right to make a statement. I think there's a long history of sports figures doing so.
Which brings us to present day. Spike Lee creating the docuseries on Kaepernick. Everything's fine. Well, not everything's fine because Kaepernick had final cut on the series, and he and Spike Lee were basically at odds about how the series was going to come out and what was going to be said. So there was a little bit of an argument going on between them. But then, Mike, ESPN comes in, and guess what? ESPN just happens to be in bed even deeper now with the National Football League than they ever have before. And Spike Lee makes the announcement that series is gone. It won't air. And when he was asked why, he said, I'm under a non-disclosure clause. I can't say anything. So the series is done. It's ready to go. But ESPN and the National Football League killed it. Mike, this is, before we even get down to some of the political issues that are involved here, this is a great example of catch and kill. I mean, ESPN and the NFL know exactly what they're doing. They want to bury this guy. They buried him before. They blackballed him. They kept him out of the National Football League because of what he did. And it's still continuing to this day. Now his career is over, and now it's just secondary material that most people go, well, we don't care about Colin Kaepernick. You should. The guy stood up for something, just like they did at the Olympics in 1968, and he was punished for it for the rest of his life.
Well, you took the words out of my mouth. You know, Tommy Smith and John Carlos, American sprinters in 1968, raised their fists at the conclusion of the 200-meter medal ceremony. Well, during the national anthem, and they had black gloves on it, and it was a Black Power protest. And little side note. I did a story on the guy, the third man on the podium, Australian Peter Norman, who they told what they were going to do as they prettied up for the ceremony, and he wore an Olympic Human Rights Project thing on his back, and he supported him, and to the end of his life, they were his pallbearers. There's a white sprinter from South Africa. It's a great story, but the bottom line is, you're right. It was a protest, and whatever you thought about it, here's where I'm going to disagree with you. And look, as a former employee of ESPN and somebody who was there for 3 years and worked for the Undefeated, the race culture sports site that became anscape.com, and they still put out great stuff, I will say that I have no problem taking down the network anytime they do something I don't like. I still harbor a grudge that my contract wasn't extended, but I also know that I know Spike Lee very well. In fact, I got Spike Lee to be, I guess this would put me in the woke category, but like I helped co-host a Hoops for Harris identity Zoom call last year, with another comedian named Alonzo Bowden. We raised a few million. I got Spike to be on the call because I'd known him since I would cover the Knicks for the New York Times. I haven't talked to Spike about this, but I can tell you that if Colin Kaepernick had final cut and he wanted it to be about Colin Kaepernick, and Spike Lee wanted it to be about the black athlete in America and use Colin Kaepernick as a prism into that as part of it, I can tell you Spike Lee didn't want to see the movie, the series that Colin Kaepernick did, and I think that was a lot. I think that was a much more about why that series died. And I've only learned this in the last couple of days. Than ESPN's 10% ownership now, the NFL's 10% ownership in ESPN right now. They might, and I wouldn't be surprised if eventually Spike finds another vendor and cuts Colin Kaepernick out of the deal altogether. Because let's be honest, Spike Lee doesn't need Colin Kaepernick right now. Kaepernick needs him. And I will say this about Colin Kaepernick: he stood for a great thing. Just look at the numbers. Anybody that says there's not systemic racism, there's not more black people getting profiled in America by law enforcement, they're wrong. There's great cops. I love cops. I have a cop in my family. There are good cops. There are also bad cops, and many of them, are racist. So let's not forget that. But let's also talk about this. Colin Kaepernick has got to be the most, what do I want to say? He might be, Ed, the most reluctant activist I've ever seen in my life. Like, does anybody know where he is? When was the last time he said anything? No. I'm not saying he had to be Muhammad Ali. He had to be Jim Brown or Arthur Ashe, but I don't even know where he is. I don't even know, when was the last time he spoke out about anything?
I think he popped up recently looking to try another comeback again, and that didn't last long at all. And I believe that he's involved in a number of charities. But I do believe he's involved in a number of charities that are based out of San Francisco in the Bay Area.
Okay, that's good.
But he does not, but you're right in one sense, he doesn't make a big deal out of it. Maybe Colin should use his celebrity. I mean, it's there. But then again, maybe he doesn't. Maybe he got hammered so bad by the National Football League and everybody else in this, crushing his career, that he would rather move in the shadows instead of being out there. Because, again, it comes down to that point. The NFL did kill his career. There is no doubt about it whatsoever. They did it with the help of the media. They did it with the help of Donald Trump. They did it with the help of everybody who thought all of a sudden that this is a guy who is dissing the American anthem, when he was not actually doing that. He wasn't disrespecting the anthem. He wasn't disrespecting the military. None of it. And as a matter of fact, Barack Obama said it at that time. At that clip we played, he said, "We fought for that. We did.
Great.
We fought for the ability for him to say that. He did it peacefully, quietly. He made his point. But thanks to the politics of the time, he became a pariah and destroyed his career." Maybe at this point he just wants to back off and do it in the background.
yeah, did he have his career destroyed or did he destroy it? I'll say that there was probably a little bit of both. He had opportunities to show up at a workout. He only wanted things on his terms. And didn't he reach a settlement with the NFL at some point?
I believe he did. I believe
Okay,
he did.
so if you,
but
so
it's
if,
not enough.
so if
He
you
was
were,
a
so
second
if you
round
were
draft pick.
okay, good. If you were, and good, I'm glad he got his money. He got $1 million for a Nike commercial when putting your finger in the air as a corporation and seeing which way the social winds were blowing. It was, you didn't go broke if you were woke. So Nike made the commercial and they became all of a sudden this, which I loved. I mean, that was my brand. I was woke before they even had a name. It was called caring about people that didn't look like you, Ed. It wasn't just being, it wasn't being liberal about everything. But here's the deal. Colin Kaepernick, if he was truly down with the cause, you take the NFL to trial. You get discovery. You find out emails that there was collusion, and not only do you make more money, but you make it clear legally, factually, that the NFL did collude against you and your talent, and they just didn't want you were a polarizing figure like Craig
But you and I
Hodges.
know that that's nearly impossible, Mike. You can say that and you can talk about that in a legal sense.
John Gruden is doing it now.
There's not enough people who do it, though. There's tons of collusion in the National Football League and other sports, and you know that the owners will pony up. The owners will shut up. Everybody will walk away from it. Nobody will want to say anything. You'll spend 10 years with Discovery, and you'll never really get to the bottom of it. They blackballed this guy.
Okay, well, what about John Gruden? John Gruden, racist, misogynist, clearly exposed in the emails, is going to get an actual trial. Is going to court, and a Nevada Supreme Court judge okayed it, where he could actually get discovery through the NFL. And if those emails come out, and the NFL leaked the emails between he and Bruce Allen, the former Washington GM, who also was at Cretan. I think that it's going to be damaged. Maybe you're right. I don't know.
Think there's all I know is
difference here here's what I would say. Okay. Here's what I say. Colin Kaepernick was looked at the time, as he should have been, as this change agent, as part of the modern renaissance, the social conscience among athletes. LeBron probably doesn't get credit for this enough. LeBron probably started it. He and Dwayne Wade decided to wear hoodies after Trayvon Martin was killed in Miami. People forget about it. That was like 2013 or something. And that was a big deal. Like they were basically saying this law enforcement guy, George Zimmerman, he's wrong. We're supporting the black guy that would just happen to be in the neighborhood and
remember too, George Zimmerman was not law enforcement. He was just a security guard.
Yeah, he was a security guard, but it was sort of against law enforcement, that statement by the Heat, and it was basic. But and so I think that was great. LeBron stuck his neck out there, but so he everybody thought he was a change agent at the time. Colin Kaepernick, looking back, I think he was part of the story of the modern social conscience of Renaissance. The modern Renaissance social conscience among athletes. I don't think he was some seminal guy or some major change agent about the whole thing.
He had a platform.
He had a platform,
he had a national broadcast platform on a National Football League team, and he knew.
But he wasted. But now, like, what is he doing now? Like, to me, I don't know. The fact that he wants this to be all about him, it just says so much about it.
We're supposing that. We don't know that he wants it to be all about him.
Well,
we're kind of guessing why this thing.
I've been told by a couple. I've been told by a couple people that worked on the documentary that that's the case. Not Spike Lee. I haven't spoken to him, but I've at least two people who were interviewed for the documentary and have participated in its creation have said that that's what the main gist is about. Now, is it
then
still
if that's
catch
the
and
case,
kill?
There's an entirely different discussion that goes on here, because if that's the case, and he doesn't want to make it about the social issue, which he seemed to be so important about back in 2016, well, then we got a problem. But let's also remember that you and I are talking about people that we talk to here. We don't know. I don't want anybody to come out and say, you guys said that Colin Kaepernick is just doing it for himself. We said that's how it appears and how it might be, but we're not out here making a blanket statement.
Yeah, you're right. I haven't spoken to Colin Kaepernick or Spike Lee himself.
I'd love
I
him to
will
answer
say
the
that
question.
I will say that I believe, based on the conversations I have had with two
Okay.
people, that had some creative powers in the documentary, and were both interviewed for it, by the way. That those people believe that this is and not Colin Kaepernick doesn't want it to be about social justice. He just wants Colin Kaepernick to be the man, so the main social justice component of the whole thing. And it's like anybody that looks at it from outside that studied this stuff for years. I mean, Muhammad Ali is still my hero, not just as a boxer, but as a civil rights guy. Anybody looks at it from outside, he's a small part of the picture. Colin Kaepernick is not the picture of athletes who put their neck out there and pay for their careers with it.
But does this not
He
lead?
got money.
Yeah.
He got money
Does this not lead
from
though to
Nike.
another part of the conversation,
Nobody was
Mike?
giving no. Go ahead. Sorry.
That's okay. Does this not lead to another part of the conversation, which talks about how Colin Kaepernick made a statement, and he made a statement. He didn't make it against the military. He didn't make it against the American flag. He didn't make it against America. He was specifically targeting law enforcement. But because of people like Donald Trump and others, they came out and they made it that he was basically disrespecting America. And the public, Mike, there are people out there who fell for it. They ate this red meat like it was being served up with a salad, baby. They were all over it because here it is. And let's be honest here. This was a wealthy, this is how they saw him, a wealthy, black, entitled man who suddenly was speaking out against America when America gave you everything. Look what happened here. You're a black man making a big fortune in the National Football League. You should be proud of this country. He was proud of the country. He was pointing out something entirely different. At no time did Colin Kaepernick ever say that he was doing this against the military. At no time did he say he was doing this for a political reason. At no time did he say he was doing this against America. But Mike, there's that faction of people out there who just believe what they're told. And people like Trump and the right-wing media came out and said, this is why he's doing it, because he hates America. And the suckers fell for it. And they're still falling for it today.
I'm giving you my Brian Gumbel pencil.
I know. I noticed that right away. It's very good. I like that. But am I right or wrong?
I'm conflicted on this because I agree with you that, mangling his message, using using him as a referendum and his kneeling against the anthem as a referendum on patriotism in America, which our current president and others did at the time, was wrong. And the whole stick to sports, damn it. Well, guess what? Mike Pence left a game in Indianapolis because somebody kneeled on the sideline for the Colts or somebody.
See, and there it is. It's the same thing. We're going back 9 years to the same bullshit all over again. And he just drags it up. And there's that portion of America that said, hey, did you see what Vance did? He left the game because some kid was out there pulling a Colin Kaepernick and he was kneeling against the anthem because he hates America and he hates veterans and he hates football. You people got to stop falling for it. You're not that stupid. Be smarter.
Well, and it's funny. It's fun. It's fun. And like Colin Kaepernick did get it from all angles, including the black community, by the way. I have a friend who happens to be very famous, an athlete. We had lunch in Maryland at some casino called Maryland Live, and about 8 years, was it 8 years? About 7 years ago. And I go, what do you think about the whole Kaepernick thing? And he said, man, I don't like it. And I go, what? And I go, your politics real conservative? He goes, it's not that. He's not one of us. I go, what do you mean he's not one of you? He goes, he grew up with a white family and he was adopted and he didn't grow up like me. And I'm like, hold up. Like, the guy identifies black. If you're half black, most people identify black. I'm not saying that you have to or you should, but when, there is no such thing as DWW in America, driving while white, okay? If it is, you get out of a ticket. DWB is driving while black in America. There are still people of, of color who get pulled over because of their skin pigment, and that's wrong. And Colin Kaepernick was protesting some of that. That's fine. The part I don't like, Ed, the part I don't like is this notion that somehow everybody is still against him and we need to keep him down again. No, this is about Colin Kaepernick doesn't want this to be about the big picture of social injustice in America. He wants it to be about. I'm saying that.
Yes.
What are they going to do? Sue? Ed, you have money. I don't have any money. They could sue you.
I live in the States. You live in Panama, big guy. You live where the money flows. So don't tell me that.
That's true. We do have some laundering down here.
Exactly. So that's where I'm probably thinking about bringing my fortune one of these days. Who the hell knows? But here we are continuing this years later. And if we want to bring it then into now, because there are some people out there who will say, oh, come on, Ed, you're just overreacting to all this. You're exaggerating a lot of this. No, it's not. And especially in sports, because people bought into the rhetoric and the propaganda about Colin Kaepernick, and he hated America, and he hated veterans, and he hated football, whatever you want to call it. They bought into it 9 years ago. Here we are in 2025, and we're still buying into it in another sport that claims it's all about being woke. If you're woke, we're out of here. Look, we talked about this once before, where there's a male cheerleaders of the Minnesota Vikings, and people threatening to lose their season tickets, which of course is bullshit. They'll never get rid of them. We talked about that. But now you have another sport in America that has a lot of so-called woke involved, and the fans are screaming about it.
Coca-Cola 600 is underway.
NASCAR officially joining the growing number of companies showing support for the LGBTQ community. This tweet posted on the first day of Pride Month, garnering millions of views and thousands of replies. The majority of comments coming from people saying they will no longer support the organization.
So for all the fans that are leaving, I guarantee you there's just as many coming.
One of those retweets came from Stephen Rhodes. The North Carolina native began racing at 8 years old and was the first openly gay NASCAR driver.
To be expected, honestly. Just reading through some of the comments, I kept seeing things like blocked, the words bi, fan lost. And I've said for years and years that NASCAR, to be relevant again, that it was going to need to make some changes.
NASCAR is not the first organization in recent weeks to experience a wave of online criticism. Target and Bud Light's parent company both facing boycotts following their publicized support for Pride.
You almost have to make the assumption that someone is going to be outraged.
We caught up with the president of a national consulting firm. He says more and more companies are feeling the pressure to take a stance on social or political issues.
If a brand is switching from being exclusive and appealing to one group and now is trying to expand that, there are going to be consequences.
It brings up that great question again, Mike. You're a NASCAR fan. You like the racing.
Yep.
You go to it.
Yes, I do.
You enjoy it. You buy the tickets. You buy the T-shirt, whatever it is.
All right, then.
And there's a gay driver. There's a female driver. There's a black driver. Hey, look, Bubba Wallace is taking a whole lot of crap right now. He's actually in the top 10. But because he is the black driver who is entitled and people are all over him and have been for years, they go after him just because, not because of his driving skill, which is obvious, but because he's black. We are still here.
Wait a minute.
What's the
Wait
problem?
A minute.
What's
the only thing I like
concern?
at the races, Ed, the only thing I like at the races, Ed, are them French fry potatoes. All right, then. No, and by the way, I did not know Bubba Wallace was black. That's a white name, Bubba Wallace. Hell, I knew a Bubba from Shreveport, and he. Well, okay, all right. We made fun of our rednecks.
Well, you know, it's funny.
Day.
We talked about NASCAR last week, and along social media, especially on TikTok, what we put up there on TikTok got lit up by a lot of people going, it's all just woke. NASCAR's got to stop being woke. Go to short tracks in Richmond. Stop using electric cars. Stop trying to change the environment. Stop worrying about female drivers. Don't go to Mexico City and stop worrying about Hispanic drivers. It's all racism and hate that they're pushing out there. And this goes out to everybody who saw this before. We're still trying to figure out what's the big problem if a driver's gay. Why do you have such an issue with that? Please.
Well, because he'll be trailing some homosexuals in the on the track, and he'll get right behind him and come. No, okay, I'm sorry, that's offensive.
No,
Here's the
but
deal, Ed.
it's offensive nothing. It
No, you're
actually
right.
is the
There's
truth.
people like there's people like this, and this is our country. You know, I saw somebody on uh, I saw somebody on some show say Black America doesn't like Pete Buttigieg because he doesn't move us. Well, you know what that's about. A lot of the black churches um, believe in the old biblical verse from Leviticus: "Man should not lay with man." It's stupid. It's Old Testament bullshit, and it needs to stop because look, I don't know if I said this last week or the week before, but the whole notion of the whole notion of being gay is something that would bother me if my child came up to me. I don't know,
Yeah,
but
I get it.
and not because I wouldn't support those rights even harder, but the notion that he would be discriminated against, he would be bullied, and anybody that tells me that that people choose that lifestyle. Well, I don't know who would choose to be separated possibly from their family forever if they tell them that they're gay, because that's what you risk with a lot of families. I don't know anybody that would tell that to their boss who might immediately discriminate them based on their own beliefs. So I don't look. I think it's ridiculous. What I am really blown away by is in this environment, which I would call, this is almost a woke lash. There's so much that's been going on they're putting Confederate monuments back, Ed. Can you believe it? Anybody that tells me, any musclehead, right wing knucklehead that says, you are just a wussy for giving your kids a participation trophy. Is there any bigger and older and more useless participation trophy than a Confederate monument? You lost. It's over. You lost. You finished second. And there were only two teams. So
not
shut
only
up.
did you lose, but you're traitors. Because most
you're
of the people who were the
traitors, and you
generals for the
lost.
Confederacy went to West
Right.
Point. They went to military training in the United States. They were part of the United States. They turned against the U.S.
Yeah.
They were traitors. You want to build a statue to traitors?
Confederate flags and statues are the biggest participation trophies in America, and they're sick and they're old and they need to be thrown away. But that said, go back to NASCAR. I'm surprised in this day and age that NASCAR is all in on this. I love it. I love it like I love the Vikings sticking with their male cheerleaders. And I'm still pissed that during that all-female boxing card in New York recently, with Katie Taylor, I think, and the other woman was just a tremendous fight. They should have had ring boys. They have ring girls at all the men's fights. Why not ring boys at the Chippendale dancers need more income?
The only reason that anybody would get onto social media or any other form of media and look at these stories and say, boycott NASCAR, boycott NASCAR. The only reason you say that is because you don't like gay people. You're threatened by them. You're threatened by homosexuality, by bisexualism, whatever it is. But you're threatened by it because it is not the macho man bullshit that you're used to with the guy with the big muscles and the shirt and the hat and everybody saying, come on, let's go swig a beer and we'll have 27 Marlboros while we do this. You know what
I say to anybody?
People, come to grips with it. There's something wrong with you. It's not the sport. It's you. Don't keep buying into the nonsense that people are out there saying it's not right for a gay man or a lesbian female to be in NASCAR, or it's not right for a black man to be in NASCAR or any sport. Stop buying into it. You're smarter than that. We think you are.
Guess what? There are a lot of muscular guys who are gym bros who happen to be gay. There's guys who play rugby competitively. Do you know the guy who helped bring down Flight 97 on 9/11? The guy who led the revolt against the terrorist pilots?
Todd Beamer.
Gay rugby player, Mark guy. I was a Gardner. I want to say his last name.
Was it Todd Beamer?
Yes.
Todd Beamer, I think, was the one who was one of them. There were several people who got into
this
the
guy, he said, let's roll. He was the guy. He happened to be gay. He saved hundreds and thousands of lives. He might have saved the U.S. Capitol from being hit. So shut up. Like, the whole thing about, it's one of those things where I don't know why we still get into there every time. And even my friend Chris Broussard is very religious, and I respect everybody's religion unless you use it to camouflage your bigotry. And when Jason Collins
happens in most cases.
Right. And when Jason Collins came out as the first sort of NBA player that actually was playing basketball still and come out as gay, the former forward for the New Jersey Nets, I think he played for a couple other teams. I thought it was a great moment because you're really risking your livelihood more than even Colin Kaepernick at that point. But there were people who came out and said that this is wrong, and the big thing from the religious right, the evangelical Christian, was hate the sin, love the sinner. We'll love this person. Like, you know what I said, Ed, to this? And I even said it to Chris Broussard. I said, hate the bigotry, love the bigot. Anybody out there that is against the Pride Month at NASCAR, I don't hate you. I don't hate you. I don't hate you because you're a bigot. I hate the bigotry. It's a sickness and it's got to stop. The anti-gay homophobia has got to stop. And I don't say this because I have a trans nephew that I'm very proud of, and it was very hard for me to accept at first, not because of my religious beliefs, just because I grew up with a niece, and now he's a nephew, and I never, when he came out at 18, I didn't know what to do with that, even as liberal as I am. But the bottom line is, it's like, oh my God, like it's like the doctor who says, like the person who comes running in and says, doctor, do you treat homosexuals? And the doctor looks at the guy and says, I treat people. What's your problem?
See, and Mike, you made a good point. The people who are against this, who talk about it, who put it on social media, we don't hate you. That isn't the point of this. We're trying to understand, and we're not only doing that, but we're trying to tell you that there is a better way to do this. This is not important. In the grand scheme of things that happen in life, we're all just people trying to get through it before we all croak and pass off.
Yeah.
We're trying to have a little fun when we do this. Stop letting yourself be led by the evangelical Christians, by the far right-wing Christian ethic that's out there, by the MAGA side of things, by Trump, by whatever. Look, I know you're fans. We get it. Whatever you want, and you're religious, whatever. But stop. It's not necessary. There is nothing wrong with a black man, a black female, anybody taking part in any sport whatsoever. They're out there competing. They're human beings.
Yeah.
That's just it. We don't hate you, but we do despise what you speak of and why you speak of it. And we're trying to understand it. I want one person to come up to me and say, the reason I don't like them, we just don't like those pussies in there. That's all they are. Just a bunch of pussy men out there. And they'll use the word. They'll go ahead and use the F word. Here we go, Mike. I don't even know if I want to use that word out loud. Because in and of itself, it's just such a disgusting phraseology. And people would say that he used it, so he must stand behind it. There's no reason to use this. It's sports. Enjoy it.
No, it's like we talk about progress made in society. We talk about tradition. Like, well, there was nobody that came out and proclaimed because they were afraid to death to, I'll never forget the obituary that where a guy had written his own obituary, and he came out in his obituary and he basically said he's really sorry to a lot of people in his life that he had to pretend to be this person, but that's the time. Those were the times, and this is who he was. And this was like a World War II hero. So I read that, and I almost cried because it's like, can you imagine it not being allowed to be who you are? Can you imagine if you came up to me and whispered in my ear and go, I got to tell you something. I go, what's up, Ed? I'm straight. I just wanted to tell you. Like, I'd be like, Ed, Ed, I know you. I've known you love Shannon for a while. I'm okay with it. It doesn't change how I feel about you. That's how it feels to be gay. Like, think about that. And so I don't have any. I
But
just
here's
think
the
we
other
need to
thing,
move
Mike, in all
past
this.
this.
And
What?
I'll just direct this at the NASCAR fans for a minute. But I could say this for any sport whatsoever. If you really think that in that infield, between those drivers, those crew chiefs, the spotters, the mechanics, the tire changers, and every guy there, if you really think there's one gay guy in all that, you got to stop drinking or start drinking heavier, because it's just not true numerically.
Well,
and if you really think there's no gays, there's no homosexuals whatsoever in professional football or baseball or basketball or even hockey, if you think there's one or two, hey, get some help. Get a saliva test real quick.
Yeah.
There's a lot more
Yeah.
out there, but they don't say anything because they're afraid of people like you who make their life difficult.
And guess what? Bigot person who we love. Like, once again, Ed and I hate the bigotry. We love the bigot. You're going to hell before them. I hate to tell you. And I'll finish with this part, Ed. Charles Barkley, who, I can't get a hold of him like I used to, but he's just got so much going on. But, when he's the guy who I like, but not Barkley, just the player, the character. I've known him for a long time, covering the NBA all those years for the New York Times and the Washington Post. Someone came up behind me at a finals one year and got me in a headlock, and I was like, "Oh God, what knucklehead is this?" And of course, it's Barkley. And I had like two. I was trying to do the Jeff Bezos at 40 haircut, where I was keeping as much as I could. And he goes, "What's wrong with you? What's wrong with you?" And I go, "What do you mean?" He goes, "Brother, you got to take it back to God." And I'm like, "What do you mean take it back to God?" And he goes, "When you were a baby, you came out, you were bald. Take it back to God." I swear to God, I started shaving my head after that. And I was happy with it. Barkley told me in an interview less than 8 years ago, I asked him, because LeBron took a lot of heat because he said he couldn't play with a player it was after Jason Collins came out. After he said he couldn't play with a player that was gay because he couldn't trust him, that they wouldn't tell him. Of course, he's now flipped on that. He realizes that that sound had its own bigotry and ignorance behind it. But at the time, I asked Barkley about it, and he goes, "Man, I played with at least 6 gay guys." And I'm like, "Really?" He goes, "Yeah." And he goes, "I knew they were gay. They weren't checking me out in the shower. They had their own relationships on the side. They weren't taking that in the locker room. It'd be like somebody in an office, touching a girl and saying, 'You got to go out with me.' Like, no, they were, I played with at least 6 guys who were gay." And I'm like, "Well," and he goes, "And I'm not going to out them because that's up to them." And I go, "Okay, I respect that." And he goes, "But," I go, what do you think about it?" And he goes, "I think it's wrong. I think it's wrong that anybody knocks this stuff. Everybody's got gay." And at some point he said, I would rather play with a gay guy who can play than a straight guy who sucks." I love that line.
That's Charles.
It's the greatest line ever.
That's Charles, no doubt.
Once
All
again, I would rather have a NASCAR racer who could drive than a gay racer who could drive, a racer who happened to be gay that could drive his ass off, than a guy who kept hitting people from behind and ruining the race and killing people.
And by the way, for all those who are still against Bubba Wallace, and the reason you're against Bubba Wallace is because he's black, he's top 10. He's heading for the playoffs this year. He's only got 1 win this season, but he's a hell of a driver, and he's doing real well. Enjoy the skill and the sport and the athleticism of the individual, and stop worrying about all the other bullshit. It's just not worth it. On to college football, because we have to make sure we get this in here this week, because it is another one of those things, Mike, I got to tell you, it's got me grinding my teeth when I hear all this.
Wait, Ed. Okay, let's do that real quick, because I'd love to get to the woman's coach thing, but that's okay if we don't have time.
Okay, well, we'll get. I'm going to tell everybody right now we're running a little late on time. So because Michigan is here, we'll get to that, but we'll get to the women's coach thing next week, okay? Or later on this week.
That's
we'll
fine.
Get to it later on this week because I want to make sure.
That's an evergreen topic.
Yeah, it really is, and you'll hear it on Friday when the show comes out. Okay, Michigan busted by the NCAA, And when this is all said and done, wait till we start talking a little bit about Jim Harbaugh and the fact that they just let this guy off the hook.
The NCAA will fine Michigan more than $20 million and impose another game suspension for head coach Sharon Moore. Moore already had been suspended for 2 games this upcoming season and scheduled to come for weeks 3 and 4. The penalties come in the wake of the school's sign-stealing scheme on former coach Jim Harbaugh's watch, with former assistant Connor Stallions accused of running the operation. Harbaugh's going to receive a show cause, of 10 years, while Stallions is going to get one of 8 years, according to Yahoo Sports. So here's really the big things that you need to know about this. It's a 4-year probationary period. We have that 14 weeks of prohibition coming up. But the big one there, that $50,000 fine and 10% of the program's budget.
In the end, Michigan gets to keep its national title. I think the precedent was set there by NCAA President Charlie Baker back in January 2024 when he said Michigan won the title fair and square. So from then on, we knew Michigan was not going to have that national title wiped away from the record books or the trophy taken away from Michigan. But the big thing here is that the NCAA is fining, pretty much giving a tax to Michigan for winning that national title and doing so by cheating through this sign-stealing scandal led by Connor Stallions. About $20 million, if not a little bit more in total when we put all of these financial structures in place. This also includes 2 years of postseason revenue from bowl games, which obviously Michigan doesn't have yet. They're just not going to get that revenue in the future. So in the end, it's just writing out a check pretty much for Michigan to the NCAA, and that's going to be their penalty from now on.
So let me see if I got the logic here, okay? Michigan cheated. Jim Harbaugh cheated. Connor Stallions cheated. They broke the rules, and they get to keep the national championship.
Yeah.
Somebody's got to stop me on this one here really quick and tell me this. And I know Michigan fans are going to be screaming at us doing this, Mike. They're going to be saying, they earned the national championship. No, they didn't. They cheated. Harbaugh cheated leading up to the national championship. The players on the roster, the coaches there, this guy Connor Stallion, they knew what was going on. If you think for 1 second that Harbaugh didn't know what was happening in every aspect, these guys know. I've been close to college athletics for many, many years. It's not like all of a sudden the head coach doesn't know. It's a mystery. I don't know what everybody else is doing. That's bullshit. It just goes back to the whole thing that Joe Paterno knew what was going on at Penn State. Jim Harbaugh knows what's going on at Michigan. Michigan should not be able to keep that national championship, Mike, but they're going to give it to them because they got too many Michigan fans out there, and Michigan makes way too much money on the national scene, and they got to make sure they keep pumping in that money now in the new college football playoff. Damn it! I'm trying to wrap my head around this. It's nothing personal. It's nothing personal against you Michigan fans, not at all. He cheated.
Where did you go to school, Ed?
Brown University.
Oh, Mr. Ivy League, huh? Because it sounds like you went to the Ohio State, you son of a bitch.
I knew somebody was going to say that.
You son of a bitch. You know, I have some friends at Michigan. I have some friends that went to Michigan. Barbara Barker, one of the great sports writers in America, also from the same hometown as Christine Brennan, Ottawa Hills, Michigan. In Toledo, Ohio. Dave Winokur, one of the all-time dads in the history of daddom, lives in Maryland. Kids, Brody and Chase, two studs. I'll also say this. One of the great lawyers in America, Brent McIntyre, former undersecretary under President Bush, by the way. Another big Michigan guy, Michael Rosenberg, Sports Illustrated. I could go on and on. I have a lot of Michigan people.
There's a lot of great people from Michigan.
Yeah, right. So on behalf of them, I say screw you, Ed. We're keeping the title. We're Wolverines,
but you didn't earn
baby.
The title. You cheated.
We're Wolverines. Look, here's the deal.
You got to get that. I got to go out and I got to get a copy of Red Dawn and get that in the Wolverines.
Yeah, you got to stick that in there.
I'll find it.
But there isn't there real quick. Did the NCAA after rescinding Michigan's national title in basketball, or their banners for the Final Four with Chris Webber and that gang after they found out they got paid? Did they actually return them to them, at some point?
I don't
I
believe
can't
so.
remember because
No, I don't think so.
everybody was paid in college. I don't know. Like Jim, I don't know. Ed, I just think there's bigger things in life and
Harbaugh's a crook.
sports.
He's a cheat.
Everybody's going to know that Michigan won. You're going to
Well,
say the
yeah, it doesn't make a
Patriots
difference.
didn't.
Yeah, they
You're
know
going to
that
say
they
the
won. I
Patriots.
get that.
Should the Patriots give back their championships that they saw film of the Steelers before the AFC title game?
Ah, come on. They didn't see any film. That's nonsense.
Exactly.
Here we go.
So
This whole
it's all
Spygate
your
thing.
allegiances. It's all your allegiances,
It's not
Ed.
my allegiances. I don't give
Yeah,
a damn.
you
If
are.
Michigan wins another
You
20
you went.
championships, I don't care. I don't care if Ohio State wins or loses. I don't care. But I'm saying if you cheat, you're punished. You have to stop this nonsense where you just let people off the hook because they're major programs. And not only that, Mike, but here, I'll make the Michigan fans even happier. I know for a fact that probably out of the top 20 schools that are out there right now, there's cheating going on at every single one of them, without question. Why do I know this? Because I've been around college athletics for 30 years. I know what goes on. There's something going on underneath the surface.
Cheating how? Are athletes getting paid? They always were getting paid. One of the dumbest.
It doesn't make sense to cheat anymore with athletes getting paid. They're making more money than the coaches.
But cheating on a level of paying a guy as opposed to sign stealing and having an actual battle plan to have a guy show up at other games and take photos and make sure that he knows what other players are being called. Yeah, that's pretty high level. I still think that there's a weird gamesmanship that happens, and it's too often it happened with steroids back in the day where you'd go to GNC and you would want all these performance enhancers, but you go right up against the pharmacological gray line about what was a cheating substance and what wasn't, what was going to help you get over. And at some point, Michigan rationalized that wasn't over the line, or that they wouldn't get caught, and they did. I'm not going to take it away from all those kids. I'm certainly not going to take it away from all my Michigan friends. They won the national championship, not fair and square, but who won a national championship fair and square, Ed, in our lifetime?
You just brought up something here, and this is where I kind of stop all this. Yes, I don't think Michigan should keep the national championship, but in the same breath, I feel sorry for the guys, the young guys, the players themselves. They went out there every single day. They busted their ass. They went out. They won a championship on the field. What happened off the field is not their fault. I get that. I don't want their national championship taken away. But what has Jim Harbaugh got here? He's got a 10-year show clause where if he ever comes back into the NCAA again, he's got to sit for 10 years and he's got to show why he's actually allowed there. He's in the NFL right now. He's making more money than God. He doesn't have to come back to the NCAA. That's bullshit. And by the way, Michigan having to pay $20 million, that's about what they're figuring it's going to be. $20 million is pocket change. They're going to run that out. They'll go look in a cigar box underneath the bed somewhere, and they'll pick out $20 million. If you're going to punish a school, if you're not going to take away the title, then really severely punish the school. 20%, make it 50%. Go after them.
Ed, right now, I want to give you a 10-year show cause in broadcast journalism.
I think it's a good idea. I think it is. Yeah. I think I need 10 years to show why I should be allowed back on the air.
I'm going to do one more Brian Gumble pensive look.
Oh, God.
Should Michigan keep the title? Should they not? Who freaking cares? You know what? The Michigan people do, and they deserve this.
And it's not against, and I'm not saying this against Michigan fans. I know a lot of Michigan people. They're good friends. But the team cheated. Harbaugh cheated. Admit it. He cheated, and the reason why the team was as good as it was because they had good coaching, good players, and they cheated. Okay? So why do we always have this reticence to punish people who cheat? It's always like, don't worry about it. It's no big deal. Everybody cheats. That's not the point. Or is it?
Isn't cheating in college white-collar crime at this point? I mean, come on.
Pretty much. Always has been.
I mean, at some point, and I am not defending the cheating. What I am saying is I remember seeing this big story when Chris Webber was found out, and the Fab Five got paid, and it mocked Mitch Albom, the famous sports writer, for his Fab Five book, and all these wonderful guys who were eating nothing and not getting any money from the jerseys. I remember, and there was a booster, Ed Martin, who gave him money, rest his soul, all that. But I remember seeing that story and how they were taking the banners away. This must have been probably the early 2000s. I don't know when it happened, but I remember thinking to myself, would have been a story. Chris Webber was the number one player in the nation that year when they recruited him. Number one player in the nation, not paid. That's a headline. Number one player in the nation does not get paid. That's a headline. Okay? That hasn't happened in basketball or football that I know of. And you don't know that, but you can be damn sure that somebody got benefits, or somebody's mom got a job that they shouldn't have gotten. That's how this is college athletics. The stupidest thing a coach recently said,
one of the most profitable, high-earning sports in the world today.
And you know what? You want to take somebody to issue with this? Take the NCAA to issue. It's the worst governing body outside of the alphabet organizations in boxing. It's the worst governing body in all of sports. The NCAA is a monopoly. It's a bunch of administrative joke. You talk about somebody that needs a real Doge guy to go in there and talk about efficiency. That needs to be cleared out.
I've always said that the NCAA, the IOC, and FIFA are the three most corrupt organizations in the sports world, without question.
Yeah. And so if I'm the governor, Trump wants to make a difference in the world right now, seize control of the NCAA. The government should oversee
pretty much
college
sports anyway, though, Mike. The NCAA is toothless right now, in many ways, thanks to NIL and thanks to so many other contracts.
Yeah, exactly. Which is why we should eliminate them.
Okay, so let's start fresh here for a second. Okay, we're in charge. Michigan, without question, Michigan cheated to win their national championship. Absolutely.
Yep.
Jim Harbaugh cheated. Connor Stallions cheated. So did other people. It wasn't just these two guys that were
Wait,
involved.
who's Connor Stallion? Is he the guy that went to the...
He's the assistant coach who was involved in the whole scandal.
Oh, right.
He's another one. It's not even the one that got fired this time around. But what I'm saying is they cheated to win. Now the team and the players won the championship. They didn't deserve to win the championship because they cheated. So what do we do? I mean,
going forward, Ed, I'm going to listen to you and ban them. But right now, the Wolverines are grandfathered in, damn it.
Well, that's just it.
If we're taking over today with they're grandfathered in. Going forward, Ed, anybody caught cheating like that will have their championship taken away.
But will they? That's my point. I don't think they will, because there's always an organization there that says, and again, Michigan makes billions of dollars. I'm exaggerating here. Hundreds and millions of dollars, and they're part of the cash cow that is now college football. There is no way in hell that Michigan, the NCAA, the television networks, Mike, no way in hell that TV networks want Michigan suspended or out of the race. That's worth tens of millions of dollars to the television network.
Have you ever been in the Big House, Ed?
No, I have not.
100,000 people strong. It's the most impressive thing I've seen since a full Rose Bowl in person. I think the only thing that I haven't even attended something that large, and I've attended a bunch of Olympics. That was incredible. And it was like I was covering the NBA, and my boss at the time, Neil Amber, of the New York Times, said, "Hey, Michigan's playing Penn State this weekend. It's a big game. You're in Michigan. Can you go to the game in Ann Arbor?" I'm like, "Oh yeah, I always wanted to go to the Big House."
I'd love to see incredible. A game there. I would.
It was incredible, and it was insane. It was loud. It was crazy, and I'm not going to deprive 100,000 fans of that title, Ed. You can call me a crook. You can call me.
No, I'm not calling you a crook.
You can say I can have low morals. You can call me an apologist for the Wolverines. Wolverines. But that's where I stand, Ed.
Okay, and that's fine. I'm just trying to say that if somebody cheats, there's got to be punishment, and having a multi-$100 million, billion-dollar program pay $20 million is nothing.
Yep.
They'll pay
You're
that
right.
and they'll walk away.
You're right. And if it was the Ohio State, yeah, I would have taken their title away.
And if it was... See, I was waiting for that to come in. And just to make sure the Michigan fans are aware, let me look you right in the eye and say, if the same thing happens to Ohio State, they need to have the title removed. No title. End of story.
Okay. End
of day. Okay? Are we good?
All right.
I don't have to worry now. We're going to get hammered bad enough on this?
Yeah. Yeah. But the ghost of Bo Schembechler is okay with that.
Okay, good. And Woody, what was it? Woody Hayes, get him to push another player out of bounds when he comes from out of bounds. If
you talk about it ending your career, that's a great way to do it.
It was a great way to end his career, and he never apologized for it.
No.
Reminder once again, you can catch us on YouTube at the Fastest Show in Sports. All the shows, all the bonuses, all the clips, everything. Go to the podcast wherever you get your podcast. Search out the Fastest Show in Sports. Subscribe, listen, download. And we'll have more of this excellent sports talk again. All right? You happy now? We got out of Michigan's bad graces here? Oh, see?
Nacho and I would like to say goodbye to you from Panama today, Ed.
Hi, Nacho.
Oh, Nach!
Sorry, my guy's on the floor. I can't bring him up, so there you go.
Okay, all right.
He's Nacho. He's Mike Wise. I'm Ed Berliner. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Until next time, right here on the Fastest Show in Sports. Rock on, true believers. See ya!
That's all, folks.